Greetings, campers! Welcome to the first anniversary show of The World According to Yoni. As I have been for the past year, well, actually a lot longer than that, but at least to you guys for the last year, I am your host, Yoni Martin, and obviously you're not. I had this wonderful opening planned, but it was a little lengthy, and because I've been getting bitched at for the length of the show, and I wanted to have most of the time spent with today's guest, Jody Hamilton, I thought I'd save that opening because it's not precisely timely for next week's show, and just do a little bit of an opening here because obviously I can't not say something about something happening in the world. So instead of the original opening, here's what I wanted to say. Does anybody remember separation of church and state? The reason I bring this up is it seems that a group of American bishops don't want to allow Joe Biden to take Mass because he's pro-choice. Now, the Vatican, interestingly enough, has warned the bishops against doing that. Do you think maybe, just maybe, because it's the Vatican, while they're a separate country within the borders of Italy, it's a country that allows abortion. And I don't see anyone in Italy, or the Vatican for that matter, denying their Catholic president, Sergio Mattarella, communion. As my friend Kevin Moran posted on Facebook, here's an idea. Instead of worrying about Joe Biden being pro-choice, what if Catholic bishops chose to prevent child molesters from giving communion instead of preventing pro-choice Catholics from receiving it? Great idea. I like it. Thanks, Kevin. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, and this is for those of you who are watching the show. Those of you listening, I'm going to read this, so it's important. Here, I don't even know. This is a flyer that has been posted around Fairfax County, Virginia. You may remember that last week's guest, Democratic strategist and Fairfax County School Board member Carl Frisch, who I guess is running for re-election now, this piece of shit flyer was posted around Fairfax County in our supposedly post-racial America. And this is what the flyer says. Fairfax County, Virginia, school board members, Jew-inspired, communist, queer-loving sex fiends violating the words of the Holy Bible, KJV. I have no idea what that means. Yahweh is watching. Loyal White Knights, 24/7 hotline, 1-336-432-0386. There's a website given. Oh, and they have podcasts Sundays and Mondays. Isn't that nice? And there's another number to call. At the bottom it says 100% Americanism. Pray for white Americans. Oh, yes, do pray for us white Americans because comparatively we have had it so rough. I mean, I know that every time I walk out of my house, I have to worry about a policeman coming by and stopping me because I'm standing in front of my own home and who may just, invade the house and shoot me for no reason other than the color of my skin. So I would like to take this load of bullshit and flush it down the toilet where it belongs. That being said, I'm not going to do any more ranting. I'm excited. Today is our first anniversary. We have been on the air for 1 year, and some of you have actually been with us the entire time. Of course, a lot of you have not been with us the entire time, and one should ask, why is that? What's wrong with me? Why wasn't I watching or listening to this show before now? Well, guess what? They're all still on your podcast channels and still on my YouTube channels. So if you want, you can go backwards and watch some of my old shows. But for today, I thought, well, what could be more appropriate for my first anniversary show than to bring back my very first guest? That guest is none other than the lovely and talented Jody Hamilton. For the few of you watching this who may not know who Jody is, she is an Emmy-nominated producer. She is a video editor. She is a sometimes actress. She is co-host of the podcast From the Bunker, and she is a Tuesday regular on the Stephanie Miller Show, which you can see on Free Speech TV or listen to on Sirius Radio. There are other places, but I'm not going into the whole thing. In any event, I am thrilled to have Jody back because you never know what we're going to talk about. Is it going to be politics? Is it going to be show business? I mean, I forgot one minor trivial point about Jody. She's also the daughter of Carol Burnett and the producer of the Carol Burnett Show, the late Joe Hamilton. So Jody grew up backstage at the Carol Burnett Show. You think she may have a story or two to tell us? Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Jody Hamilton.
Let's just take it for celebration.
Yay!
Yay!
Congratulations!
Here,
Happy
Jody.
anniversary! Happy anniversary! Happy anniversary! Happy anniversary!
You have a tab. I have a chocolate milkshake. We are so pathetic.
We are very pathetic. But I guess I'm the Jim Neighbors of your show.
We figure that.
Well, the first show of every season that my mom did, my Uncle Jim was the first guest.
It was Jim Neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
I remember him being on a lot. I didn't remember.
He was on 11 times, and it was the first show every year.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't remember that. But I have been looking at some of the sketches your mom and Harvey Korman and Tim did, and even Lyle. You're right. He's funnier than he got credit for.
Much funnier than he got credit for. Absolutely, he was.
But this stuff is amazing. It holds up so well.
It does. It's very funny. I was able to edit the first 5 seasons for Amazon and Shout Factory, and just watching those shows again, I was 1 to 5 years old when they first were shot, and then they were never in syndication. It was 6 through 11 that were in syndication. So to see them and be able to edit them and get them down to 22 and a half minutes, which is not easy when these are 55-minute shows.
Yeah.
I was allowed 22 to 24 and a half minutes was my time frame. So some of them, it's just one long finale that I literally had to cut songs.
Did you ever cut your mother doing that? Never. Never. I didn't think so.
But I did have to speed credits up on occasion.
Yeah,
just to fit it all in, because credits are important. And it was okay, credits are really fast. Let's go.
I was watching the shows that you did, and then I was cruising YouTube a week or two ago, and I found a bunch of bloopers. Now, bloopers from the Carol Burnett Show sounds redundant because, they all cracked each other up so much anyway. It was, but...
Well, we did do a special called Showstoppers in 2000.
I remember that.
2001. And we shot it in August, and then 9/11 happened the following month, and our show aired in November on a Monday night against a really good Monday Night Football game. Shocked anybody watched the show, but it did very, very well. And we took a lot of those bloopers that you've seen, and then we added more, because my parents, when they would shoot the show, my dad would take anything that wouldn't air, that was inappropriate, say, for the air, or just, couldn't air. And he would save those to tape, and they would have what was called a flip show at the end of each season, where everybody would get together, the cast and crew would get together, and during the season, they would come to my mom and say, I want to do this sketch. And so if somebody picked a sketch from the season, nobody else could pick that sketch that they were going to do their own version of. And I'm still not old enough to watch the flip shows. I mean, they're very dirty. I'm definitely not old enough, but so a lot of the outtakes were from these flip shows, and so that's how my brother got them, because he had all my dad's tapes, and now I do, and so that's how we got the Showstoppers show together, which is all of those amazing outtakes that couldn't be aired. Some of them.
I can't imagine what it must have been like to be backstage for so much of that. It's, the closest I got, my dad, we New Yorkers,
right?
My father, when he had to go out to LA to do film or television work, he would, he'd run into people. We knew my father was important the day he met Mo Howard of the Three Stooges.
How much? I mean, come on.
And Mo told him to invite us. He'd bring us to the studio to watch him shoot.
So sweet.
It took years for us to forgive my father for not bringing us out there. Years. I mean, come on, funny. It was the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Not Curly, but Curly Joe DeRita, that's what we had.
Yeah.
But it's pretty interesting.
We have, there's pictures that I used to have up here before the thing can't happen. And I used to call it the wall of shame. Drink up. So I used to call it the wall of shame because it's basically pictures of my sisters and me with famous people.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I just think it's silly. These poor people were forced to take photographs with us, basically. And it was a CBS photographer that would do it. He's usually in my mom's dressing room. And us with Sammy Davis, the Jackson 5, Cher, Maggie Smith. Who else?
Poor kid.
I know. How awful is that?
Yeah.
But my favorite was because I had a mad crush on Ray Charles. It started when I was 4.
Wow.
And apparently, I remember loving him, but I don't remember doing this particular thing. I've been told I did this, that I was 4 years old and he was on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I was watching, I guess in my parents' room, watching Ed Sullivan. And I crawled off their bed and walked to the TV and put my hand up. And I said, I'm going to marry him. He's my husband. And my mom and dad were like, well, she's got good taste, And then about a year or so later, I was talking to a plumber, apparently. And I told him that I was married to Ray Charles and that
5 years old.
I was 5. And I told him that I had to lead him everywhere because he was blind. So I had to help him walk everywhere, A year later, he is guest starring on my mom's show. So they tell him these stories, which I was still way too old for him at 6. If you've seen the biopic, you'll know. And so they told him all these stories, which he found it's adorable, right? So he's on the show, and I didn't have to wear my school uniform to go to this particular show. I was in a little white dress with a pink bow in the middle and my Mary Janes and my hair up, and as if he could tell. But I was all dolled up for him. And I vividly remember this. His dressing room was down the hall from my mom's, and the show was done. And we all go back. We always went backstage to say goodnight to my mom and dad before they finished the second version of the same show. And I remember coming out of my mom's dressing room into the hallway, and he was let out of his dressing room, and he goes, "Where's my Jody?" And he got down, and I ran, and I hugged him, and he picked me up, and it was just, I remember that.
Well, how could you forget something like that?
Exactly. And it was very strange. When he passed away, I was very upset because that was the only time I ever saw him in person. And then I watched a PBS special of his by myself one night, and I just remember why I fell in love with him when I was 4, just everything about him and how he was just an amazing performer. And it was just, I was so so lucky to meet him and have that experience at such a little girl's, I was in love with him. He was my first husband as far as I'm concerned.
I'm sure Lonnie doesn't mind.
He doesn't mind. He's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, it's an amazing thing to think about, And here's the thing, Jody, you are so you. I mean, the person who you come across as when you do Steph's show, or I've ever seen you anywhere else, or listen to your podcast, it's you. It's like, oh, she can't be that nice. She can't be that real.
I'm really not. It's all an act.
And it's a damn good one. See, and
I had my physical the other day. And my doctor goes, "Well, you're completely normal." And I said, "Well, my husband might argue."
Yeah. Yeah, but this is the guy with the car collection, so not the guitar, the car.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we're down to 2 classics again. We had 3 at one point. He sold the T-Bird to a lovely man in Germany in February. We think he's gotten it now. And we made a nice little tidy profit on that. But now, and then he traded the Model A for the T-Bucket, and then we still have the Bugatti replica.
I can't remember the one you posted the picture of a few weeks or a month ago that I don't give a damn about cars, but that was the coolest thing I have seen.
Was it the yellow car? Because now it's purple.
Painted.
Not kidding. He painted it purple, and now I do have a Lily Munster outfit that goes well with it. So the one and only time I will drive in that thing, I will be dressed as Lily Munster. We will get pictures.
Oh, I want to see that. I really do. And I watched your movie.
Oh my God.
You asked me to. You sent me the link. You said,
watch my silly little movie.
Watch this. Hey, listen, we've all done silly little movies. I could torture you with some of the films I've done, but you were good.
Thank you.
And actually, the thing about that film, and I can't remember the name of it.
Genesis, the future of mankind as woman.
The story, the concept was kind of interesting. And Meredith Baxter.
Oh my God.
She's
Bob Romanis. Same with Bob. I mean, both of them, it's just like this is how I got in the film. My friend Audrey, who I've known since I was 6 or 7 years old, she used to babysit my cousin. She comes to my 50th birthday party and she says, "Hey, I'm doing a movie." And I'm thinking, hey, I don't want to produce your dream. I've already done that because there's no money. And she's like, no, I want you to be in it. And I went, what? I'm not an actor. She goes, no, just read it. You're playing, oh God, I don't even remember. I was absorbed so many characters. I forget my name now. Casey, that's what it was. Casey was my name. She goes, you play Casey, just read the script, see what you think. So Casey originally only had 3 lines. She just was kind of there. And that was fine with me. I'm like, I can't ruin a movie if I only have 3 lines, right? And she said Meredith Baxter and Robert Romanis. And I'm like, awesome. And then she said Dana Goldberg and Susanna. I'm like, I know both of them because of Stephanie. So that was weird in and of itself. And so we get to the reading, and the woman that was originally cast to play the lead did not end up playing the lead for whatever reason. Emily, God bless it, came and did the lead. She's fantastic. But so we're doing the read through, and Audrey had me read a couple of other characters because the actors couldn't be there for the read through. So there's Meredith Baxter and Robert Romanis and Dana and Suzanne, and then me and a couple of other people that don't act for a living. And so I get a couple of laughs. Great, right? Next thing I know, I am now going to take over this other person's role because she's now been up to another role. So I've absorbed one character. Okay. Then this other actor couldn't finish doing the film. So I get to get all of her exposition.
Oh boy.
All of the stuff, like 4 pages of dialogue in a day, kind of to memorize. So now this 3 lines that I agreed to do, now I'm in 30 minutes of the film. Like when I watched the movie, because it took us a year and a half to get done. So it's kind of funny to watch.
I understand that so well.
Of course, money and time. I mean, we got all of Meredith's stuff except for a couple of scenes done within port. She had to do like all of her bulk of work in like a week and a half.
Of course, because she was the money.
Exactly. And it's her schedule is more important than anybody else. Absolutely. And so it was kind of funny to just kind of watch what happened. And at one point I said, I keep absorbing women. And when there's the scene in the movie where we're talking about how many women live on the ranch, as we were doing the walkthrough rehearsal, I said, there used to be 150 people. I absorbed 100 of them, but now that I'm menopausal, I'm not absorbing as many women as I used to. So Emily just started laughing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you talk about absorbing women, and it's like...
I absorbed, I think, 3 characters.
The lines write themselves.
And it's, I mean, I'm still friends with Emily, the woman that played Angela, and Audrey. I'm going to see both of them tomorrow at our hugging party. And Dana may come by with her mommy. She's not sure. But no, it was a lot of fun to do. It was at one point when we're, okay, the scene where I shoot everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
That was pretty funny. That was.
Well, it was insane, right? So when they're doing my close-up and I have the thing off and I look very serious, well, Bob Romanis is making faces at me. And I'm like, please yell cut, because I'm about to burst out loud. And you can kind of see me almost laugh. And Audrey just left it in. And it was just like, because Bob kept like covering his penis and doing all these things. I'm like, stop it. I barely knew Bob at the time, too. It was like the second day I met him. So.
Well, that's a really good way to get to meet somebody and know them well. I barely recognized him. I mean,
but the voice, I'm sure you remember the voice.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and we all age.
Well, what was interesting was Meredith and Bob both worked with my sister on. Bob worked with Carrie on Fame, and Meredith did A Mother's Justice with my sister. So when I met them at the read-through, I said, hi, I'm Carrie Hamilton's little sister. And they were both like, oh my God, hi, loved your sister. And Bob, my friend Amanda Wiss, was also in Fast Times. So they've kind of seen each other somewhat because of me over the past couple of years. It's like, hey, Jody, oh my God. Okay. So
hey, I think it's great, but it was funny because story, the concept, really interesting. Execution, maybe a little problematical, but when you're shooting a film over a year and a half and the continuity tends to be a little rough.
Oh no, Emily goes, well, first the makeup artist changed, and so there's like glam makeup on people that shouldn't have it, and there's that, and then Emily's hair kept growing and being cut and growing and kept being cut, so that's hilarious.
Yeah,
you can never get the same haircut twice.
I kept saying,
I just kept letting my hair grow.
In this scene, but
it was just little things like that,
But you as the badass lesbian, I was so cute.
No, at one point when we're in the hospital, which is one of the first scenes we shot, and I'm running out of the hospital room, I ran out kind of like this, and she goes, can you be a little more butch? I said, what? Isn't this gay enough?
Well, if you were doing a male, I suppose it might have worked, but...
I mean, literally, there was only Emily, myself, and Tracy, who played Dana's girlfriend. I think we were the only straight women cast and crew. Everybody else was gay. The boys were straight. Yeah, I think all the boys are straight. Yeah, they all are. But yeah, all the women, except for the 3 of us, were gay as well. So I'm like, well, how does a butch girl run? I don't know these things.
I don't know. I did the last film I did. I was lucky enough to work off Eric Roberts. So, you know, we were the comic relief. There was Eric Roberts, my younger brother Seth, and me were the comic relief. We were the badass bounty hunter morons, and we all got blown away in this film. But we had some funny bits in it, which was really good because it was financed by a guy who saw himself as the next Jackie Chan. He can't speak English like Jackie Chan, and he can't fight like Jackie Chan, and he doesn't have Jackie Chan's sense of humor. But otherwise,
exactly like him.
Yeah, just like him. And Eric was in, I think, for 11 days. And I tell you, I've worked with a lot of people over the years. My God, that guy's good. He makes you better, so much better. And unfortunately, we had a situation where it was first-time director, and the director was intimidated by Eric. So his way of dealing with that was,
no.
Oh yeah, and getting hostile towards other people, because he couldn't obviously do that to Eric. And it's like, this guy knows more about the craft of making movies than pretty much anyone I've ever worked with, except maybe Sidney Lumet. But maybe. But I mean, I asked him, I said, why haven't you ever directed? He said, I don't want to direct. I like to act. Okay. He'd be a great director. But we had fun because we're doing the comedy bits. So,
right.
But that movie is, what was it? They had a big premiere for it in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where most of it was shot. And it was like a Hollywood premiere in Virginia Beach. And my older brother, he wasn't really an executive producer on it, but they gave him an executive producer title. He and I had a bunch of gummies before the screening because it's the only way we were going to get through it. So we're giggling and laughing hysterically, and people are turning around looking at us going, what the fuck? So we've all done those, Jody.
Well, I mean, what was interesting is that it was mainly in a lot of lesbian film festivals initially, or gay film festivals initially, but then it got into a film festival here in Los Angeles 2 years ago. Like a normal person, like everybody can go kind of thing. It's not just for the gays. And it was interesting because it was mainly like, it was Emily and myself and Audrey and I think Tracy and a couple of other people. And then people we didn't actually know. So we're like a little terrified because it's not friends now, it's just like strangers. And we let, there's a Q&A because that's how film festivals are. And it was, the joke was when I was first cast, I was the baby in the movie and it took that long to shoot. And so people were, these guys were really nice. These young filmmakers are like, wow, we really like the story and you guys were so good. And yeah. It was really sweet to kind of go, wow, these people don't even know us and they like our little movie,
That was the thing on the one I'm talking about. People love it. If you look on Twitter and the people are raving about this thing. And I'm sitting, did they see the same movie?
Well, I like Genesis. I find it amusing. When I first saw it with her first cut, because she's an editor by trade. And so she goes, will you watch it? I'm so close to this. And so I watched it and I made notes. I watched it like 3 times in a row. And I was like, why don't you cut this scene by 30 seconds here? And stop holding on that shot. I was very, very critical of, very critically watching it. And then I watched it again as just an audience member a few times. And it was just like, no, she still needs to, I don't know why she kept it. It's like, that's where my brain goes, but I'm not the producer. But what I loved though was at our read through, having been in read throughs before, just reading stage direction, because that's my forte. Listening to Meredith and Bob, especially, read this script, and I'm sure they read it once, just once. But I called my mom. I said, "These are really good actors. I mean, it's like it's as if they're actually speaking, not just reading." And Mom goes, "Well, that's the thing, honey." And I said, "No, I can't do that." She goes, "Well, how'd you do it?" I said, "Well, I got some laughs." She goes, "Then you can do it." It's kind of like just listening to them do it versus myself and others in the room was apples to wood. I mean, literally so good at what they know how to do, to emote with words they may have read once and haven't absorbed as their own personas. It's amazing to witness that. And I bow to anybody that can do that like that.
Okay,
I can't.
Bow right now.
Do it. It's hard to do, especially I doubt they read the script more than once. I really do. I mean, it's a read through.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm sure Eric never read the script when we.
And that's a thing. It's like, it's amazing. I've had read-throughs here with other things that I've been a part of with Amanda Wiss, who's also in Fast Times, and just hearing her read words that I know when and how they were written, and her doing it exactly like we imagined without giving her direction. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, good writing can do that, but when the writing is mediocre at best, and it got better, obviously, from the original script to what happened, because the original ending was completely different in Genesis than what we had. And the writing did get better. But that initial read-through, you're kind of there to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. And to listen to people read a lot of exposition and make it sound like that's how you talk is amazing to me. Because I produced industrials for a while, and trust me, that's a lot of exposition. And I've heard actors do it well, and I've heard them do it terribly, and that's the difference.
You never know. I mean, there are actors who can do that off the cuff and just be phenomenal, and others have to really dig into it before they can do it.
It's like good soap opera actors. I mean, the amount of, because I used to watch All My Children, and you could always tell that they were trying to craft a storyline where there were no names of characters. It was all he, she, they did what things, and we don't know it, but apparently the writers do. And so these poor actors have to sound like they know what they're talking about without not. And it's like, in 20 pages a day, 30 pages a day.
I did 6 months on The Edge of Night, and I was lucky because I was just one of these people who hung out in the local hand, and every once in a while I get to say, "Hey, how you doing?" kind of thing.
Right.
So I would watch, and what I found fascinating was you had, it was right out of Tootsie. You had the old man who was grabbing ass. Lori Loughlin was 16 years old on that show then. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but it was so funny. He's the big badass, the guy who's going to go out and beat the crap out of you. And then, of course, running around the set in tight gold lame hot pants, flaming. And it was like, okay, that's some actor, because boy, you wouldn't have guessed.
Well, I mean, you look at somebody like Susan Lucci, who was on All My Children for the 42 years that it was on the air. That woman, when she finally won her Emmy after 21 nominations, and then they tried to play her off. And it was Jimmy Kimmel that said, "Do not play this woman off. This is her first Emmy win, 21 nominations." And my mom actually gave her a Soap Opera Digest award like 10 years earlier. And she's like, "So Susan," and she did this, and she's talking about Erica Kane, and then she went through this, and then she went through that, and then she went through this, and she still didn't win an Emmy. And then I thought, maybe she's not that good. And Susan burst into laughter because she's got a really good sense of humor. But I mean, that is a woman who took a character from a 17-year-old character. She was 21 maybe when she started, and that character just grew like insane. And
Yeah.
she was and is so good at doing dialogue that's just there to get the information out and not there to necessarily entertain. It's more about information in an entertainment sort of way. And I just, that is a masterclass just to watch her. And Erica Slezak, and there are several others, but it's like, because Erica Slezak kept winning her Emmys, kept winning Susan's Emmys.
Sarah Michelle Gellar won an Emmy before Lucci.
Playing her daughter, yeah.
So I'm sure that went over real well.
Well, Susan at that point was so just happy to be invited to the party that when she won, she was genuinely shocked. You can see it on her face. If you watch that, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, she's genuinely in shock because she's used to going home and her children making her brownies and saying, "Sorry, you didn't win again, Mom." I mean, it got to be a running joke. Did you see her do her guest star on Saturday Night Live years ago?
Yeah, but I mean, I barely remember.
I think it was her 15th or 16th Emmy nomination that she lost. It had to have been 15 because it was an important year. And so she's guest hosting on Saturday Night Live, and they literally, real Emmys and fake ones, had an Emmy fight in the dressing rooms. "Oh, hi, Susan. Oh, you don't have one of these?" And they literally like had an Emmy fight. It was hilarious. And she got it because she's funny.
I got a bug going around me. Get out of here.
You sure you're not high on that milkshake?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I don't think Breyer's ice cream gets you that high. But it's tasty.
They couldn't make edibles now. You don't know.
Hey, that's true. But you're right. Soap opera, if you look at a lot of really wonderful actors, you'll note that a good percentage of them started in soaps because it's
Elizabeth Banks, Josh Duhamel. I mean, I can name a bazillion,
Yeah, but to stay
Marsha
with the
Mason.
show for all
40
those years, I mean, yeah, it's a steady gig, but it's a grind, and it's
a grind.
Amazing. So I have great respect for people like that.
Me too.
I couldn't do it.
It's acting school. You really are learning on the job. I remember this one actor that was on All My Children. When she started, I was like, "Oh my God, she's terrible," because it's not easy dialogue. It's really not that easy. And then all of a sudden, like within a year, she became this really good actor. And I'm like, okay, she maybe went to more school, or she started to listen to the other actors and figured out, because you don't have a lot of time as a director. Just get it shot, done, we're moving on. I mean, you're doing an hour-long show a day.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just, I bow to those people that can do it, and I really miss All My Children, and I hope that Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos can get ABC to do the nighttime Pine Valley.
Didn't know they were trying, but
they are. It's called Pine Valley. It's going to be an ABC nighttime soap weekly. So hopefully they get it actually sold. I know that ABC was looking at it, so hopefully they'll get that done.
That would
and
be
I can.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm for everybody working, especially me.
I understand.
Yes. You had the party, what was it, last week at Steph's with the Girls of Comedy?
Well, I was the one that was the least funny of everybody there, certainly.
I knew you were going to say that. You were on the end, and
I was way over here.
And I just knew from the look on your face, you're going, what am I doing with these women? It was so nice. It was funny too, because a friend of mine was in town. He had moved back to Alabama about 7 years ago. And so he's just in town for a week. And so he said, "Can we have a small party?" And I said, "Only if people are vaccinated." And so then Stephanie goes, it was 2 weeks ago, and Stephanie goes, "Well, I'm having a party and you have to come over." And I'm like, "Stephanie, I'm having people at my house. My party ends at 5. She goes, "Well, come over right then, because mine starts at 5. Can't you leave before that?" And I'm like, "Do you want Lonnie to kill me in my sleep?
because then he has to clean up by himself. She goes, well, just get here when you can, because you can't not be. And I'm like, okay, And
Did she tell you who was going to be there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know the story about the whole the kittens, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, so neighbors down the street, they took in a stray. Her name is Charcoal. And about 3 months ago, a little over 3 months ago, she got knocked up by some randy tomcat. And
Tomcat, man.
Very randy. And she had 6 kittens under their deck. And I listen to Paula Poundstone's Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone podcast. And Paula follows me on Twitter for some strange reason. And the kittens were about 3 or 4 weeks old. And she said on her podcast, I need to get some more cats because I don't have enough. And apparently she's down to like 7. Now she's got 9. So I emailed her on Twitter and I said, I heard that you're looking for some kittens. My neighbors have some. They'll be ready to go when they're 10 or 12 weeks old. Would you like to come meet them? And she said yes. So I met Paula at my house. We walked to my neighbors. She went over to the neighbors 3 or 4 times before she picked up 2. Hi, see the bug. He's your new friend.
Yeah, he likes the milkshake. It's not
there you
me.
go. So she picked up 2 kittens, but in the meantime, she emails me going, Lily Tomlin might want one of the kittens. And so I'm like, okay, I only apparently pair up legendary comedians with kittens. So I was texting with Paula Poundstone and emailing with Lily and Jane. And I'm like, this is the weirdest life. I have the weirdest life. Lily and Jane did not end up taking a cat, and our neighbors were able to give 4 of the kittens away. They're keeping 2 of them. But yeah, so Paula picked up her 2 kitties, and she sent a very funny video of them at home. And then so Paula was there, Lily was there. So I've known Lily since I was, a wee little lass. And I've known Jen Kirkman very briefly, but I love her. And I've met Jill a few times. And obviously I know Dana and Francis and Angela. The first time I met Francis and Angela was at a party. I'm like, Frangela! Oh my God, you're Frangela! And they're like, yes, who are you? I totally nerded out on them. I'm like, you're Frangela! Oh my God, I love you.
Again, like you, they are 2 of the most genuine human beings I've ever met. And God, I love those 2.
I had too.
They were on the show, and Angela's slower and more deliberate in her opinions, even when they're cutting. And Frances is just in there fighting away, and like she doesn't hold back. And it was so much fun. All I had to do.
The two of the nicest. In fact, that whole little dinner party with Stephanie was just like the nicest humans on the planet. The first person, when I walked into the kitchen, the first person I saw was Frances, and we just hugged. And then Dana, who's the world's greatest hugger, hugged her. And it was just like to hug people that the first person I hugged after we got vaccinated was Lonnie's mom on Mother's Day. And it was weird to like hug somebody that I don't live with,
It's very strange. We won't do it here because we've got a vaccination rate of about 40%, and we're in an area where people, they'll lie. Oh, sure, I'm vaccinated. Fuck them. And you can't, having gone through COVID, which wasn't bad. I mean, I did shows with COVID. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't have a lot of the symptoms. I couldn't taste food and I couldn't smell. Those were the 2 big ones.
Are they back?
Well, here's what happened. Funny you should ask. after the second vaccination, Moderna, I know. After the second vaccination, the day after, and I remember it clearly because it was vaccination on the 28th. The morning of the 29th, I woke my wife up because I was whimpering. I was in so much pain. I'm a migraine sufferer, so I know what pain is. This didn't even compare to the worst migraine I've ever had. I thought my head was going to explode. And then I started getting all the symptoms that you get when you have COVID. I didn't, thank God, end up in a hospital or anything, but all this, the fatigue, all the wonderful things you get. And the worst of it was, at the bottom of the list they give you of potential side effects, it says depression. Well, if you fight depression, and I've fought depression my entire life, so if you fight depression, what they don't tell you is, oh, this is going to be 20 times worse.
Oh.
This is going to knock you on your ass. So I realized when I thought about going into the bathtub, filling it, and slitting my wrists, that something might be wrong.
Yeah.
Because even if I was in such a place that I would want to do that to myself, I am phobic about needles and knives. So that's the last way on God's green earth I would ever choose to kill myself. And that's when I said, this is not good. Something's wrong. And we're now past the 2-week date. So I went to see my doctor, and he said, look, here's reality. They tested a small group of people because they had to get these things out, because anything that would help was necessary. But the real test subjects are us.
Yeah.
We are the test subjects, and we don't know what's going to happen. So I have been, I get 3-4 good hours a day. If you watch my last show, just the last 5 minutes, after Carl, I did Carl Frisch, and then after Carl left, I did a little wrap up. And in the last few minutes, you see me start to fade into oblivion. And it was like, yeah, see you all next week kind of thing. It was sad. But the doctor said, I can't tell you how long this is going to go on.
Right.
He said, and you're not the only one. Oh, goody. Thing.
Yeah, I mean, other people that have had COVID and still were symptomatic, they get the vaccine and those seem to dissipate, but that's anecdotal now. I'm sure they're studying people. I mean, with us, because our cat's litter box is in our bedroom, so we kind of get a COVID test every morning when she poops.
Yes.
Like if we can smell that, then we know we're okay. So that was our test for the past year and a half. I mean, we've been fully vaccinated since mid-May or early May 9th. So as soon as we could get vaccinated, we did.
Yeah.
It was like immediate. I'm like, I'm getting it. I've never been so happy to get shots in my life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with everything I've gone through, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
The problem is, I know the people out there are not getting vaccinated, and the numbers they're giving don't include kids under 12 because they didn't start giving them to kids under 12 until about 3 weeks ago. Now, you live in a state that's probably the most vaccinated state in the country.
Vermont's better, but yeah, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, that governor they want to get rid of over there, I don't quite get that, because he seems to be doing a pretty good job.
He's doing really well, and I don't think he's going to grade Davis himself. I don't think Caitlyn Jenner doesn't know what she's doing, and she's the only other.
Don't get me started on.
She's no Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is not the same as Gray Davis by any stretch of the imagination.
But I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I've got friends in Florida and
Me
in
too.
Georgia, and if family in actually I got family in Florida and Texas, and I don't know how they do it. Honest to God, I don't get it.
I don't either. My friend Jeff, he lives in Alabama, and they're really bad.
Yeah,
I mean, he's vaccinated because he's not an idiot.
yeah, but it's one of the 4 worst states in the country.
And a good friend of mine's wife, because we're having this hugging party tomorrow, and everybody has to either have a photograph of their vaccination card or bring it with them. And because I bring mine wherever I go, I have mine.
I wanted to laminate mine.
I did. I made a copy of mine and I laminated the copy. The real card is with my passport. But my friend's wife is terrified of getting vaccinated. It's not that she's anti-vaccine. She's afraid of them. And I was like, how can we assuage her fear? Because she's had COVID, but the Delta variant's worse. And she's now, because he's vaccinated, his parents are vaccinated, she's not. And he's like, I want to come and see you, but I can't bring her. And I said, well, we got to figure out how to make her feel okay about it.
Show them, Jody, show them this, because I am beyond phobic about needles. I literally pass out when they take blood, when they scare me to death. The vaccine was nothing.
I know.
It was, I mean, it's like, that's it. That's all there is.
It's not, I don't think it's about the needle. I don't think that's it. I think she's just afraid of vaccines. And I don't think she's an anti-vaxxer. I just think that she's, and I was like, what doctor can I get in touch with her to let her not be afraid of this thing? And I think a lot of the fear is the mRNA's vaccines in particular, is because everybody, oh, it's brand new, it only happened in a year. No, mRNA has been devised over the past 15, 20 years. They've been working on, this is the first time that they've been able to actually use something. There are new vaccines now for HIV that are mRNA based. This has been in development for a long, long time. This was the first virus that they could go, hey, we have the genome, we can figure this out, let's do it. I think maybe in September, when Pfizer is fully authorized, she might feel better. Because I know she had to have been vaccinated as a kid.
Yeah.
With smallpox and measles.
She went to school, didn't she?
Yeah, she went to school in California. So yeah, I'm sure she's my age. Of course she was. So she's been vaccinated. She just doesn't get flu shots. Okay, that's an adult choice. I got one last year for the first time in years because duh. I didn't want to get the flu.
This was the first time I ever got one too.
I mean, it's like the only times I've ever gotten flu shots is if I know I'm going to be traveling a lot. Otherwise, I don't bother because I'm in the same neighborhood. I'm around, I don't have children. I'm not around a lot of people. But if I'm traveling, that's a whole different bag of chips. And last year I was like, no, I'm not going to risk getting it because then if I get sick from the flu, I can't go, it's a whole different bag of problems.
Yep.
But I mean, and the flu vaccine isn't as good as these vaccines are. It's at best 50 to 60% effective. Whereas
no, but it was another one that was easy to take. I mean, boom. I was like, I can deal with that. Mm-hmm. It was no big deal. And
yeah, I'm hoping that my friend's wife will get over her. I mean, 160 million of us have been vaccinated so far in the country. I think if there was a problem with vaccines killing us, a lot of us would be dead by now from the vaccine.
I think a few more people may have died from the COVID than from the vaccine.
Exactly.
It's just a
thought.
But yeah, I think it might be the case.
There's a Spectrum produced series that I thought it was just a mini series, but it ended on a cliffhanger. But it's Audra McDonald and Taylor Schilling, and it's called The Bite. And it's basically a variant of COVID that makes people into zombies. It's hilarious. It's like the funniest horror thing, really well done. And I was like, I was going to email Josh and go, okay, don't watch The Bite. Just don't don't watch that because it'll freak your wife out. Just don't watch that because that will freak her out more.
Yeah. You don't want to freak wife
Yeah,
out.
I mean, and one of my oldest and dearest friends too. She's like, I'm not taking it until I have to. And I'm like, because she wanted to take the J&J shot, and then the stupidity happened when and I understood why they said, let's look at this with 8 people dying after 7 million doses. But by the same token, she just wanted the one shot, and then that freaked her out.
You would have the same percentage on almost anything. And that's what people didn't understand.
Well, and I mean, I was on birth control pills, and so was she for years. And more instances of blood clots and stroke from birth control, hormonal birth control, than that.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, a friend of mine went on the pill, and she had a mini stroke. She was 17, 18 years old, and she had a mini stroke from it. So
yeah, I mean, a friend of Lonnie's and mine, she was in her early 20s. She smoked at the time, which doesn't help, but so did I until I was 35. She had a stroke, a bad one, where she couldn't walk at like 23 years old. So she had to go off of hormonal birth control for the rest of her life. So her birth control methods are obviously different. But I mean, you wouldn't know it knowing her now, but apparently, I mean, her whole left side, she couldn't move.
Wow.
You know, and that's what happens with birth. It can happen with hormonal birth control.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. Well, you froze for a second. There was like comedy.
What?
It's good. It works. It's comedy, and it'll only be for people who are watching, because those who are listening won't see the freeze, except they'll hear I'm retelling.
Well, no, now that they know that we're naked, they're going to want to see that.
I know. I thought that would be. Hey, listen, I did a show with a girl named Jillian Keenan. I don't know if you know who Jillian is. She wrote a book called Sex with Shakespeare, which was, it's a brilliant book. You'd love it just as a book. This girl knows more about Shakespeare than almost anyone I've ever known, but she used that knowledge to explain her coming out as a Spanko. So it was a kink show. And I had 4 times more people watch that show, and I don't know how many more times the people listen to that show than any other show I've done. You and Frangela were the top 2 shows up until then.
Up it says, yeah, darn it.
You know, but let me tell you, sex sells, and I'm going to do more of that. So
I think you should.
We'll do some of these with, hey, let's be naked from the waist up.
Well, from here up. I look much better from here up.
There you go. Confidence. I love that. Before we wrap this up, one, I want to thank you for participating in my, as I call it, Medicare birthday party last year on Zoom.
Oh God, I forgot. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that was an unbelievable night. I've had birthday parties, and you hope your 65th birthday party is going to be really exciting. But on Zoom, I had people from my entire life come on we were on for 5 hours, and it was amazing. So I was really, really happy to see you there, and I appreciate your coming on. Now, the other thing, I watched your movie. I sent you a link.
I have not watched it yet. I'm an asshole.
Well, you're not an asshole, but
I need to watch it. I'm sorry. That's my bad. I will watch it. I swear to God.
Because we're trying to make a film version of it now. So I just want to hear your reaction.
Okay.
It's fun. My wife wrote it. I directed it off Broadway, and I will be directing the film. So I want you to see it.
Okay. I'm a jerk. And you have me on the spot. I can't even like go out of frame.
I know.
Because you're in the other room right there. Because you're right next to me.
No, you can go out of frame, but if we can hear you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I have my mic on, so.
Yes, I know. I put you on the spot there. That was not supposed to do that to guests. But the plus is, you're the first person I'm going to wrap the show up with. I usually do a 5-minute mini rant after my guest leaves. I'm ending the show with you.
Oh,
so
no.
It's you and me, kid.
All right.
Kind of like a Tuesday with Steph,
There you go.
So, Jody, thank you for celebrating your tab, my milkshake, my first anniversary on the air. When I started this, I knew almost nothing. Now I know a little bit more than nothing. So, you've been doing it for a long time now. One of these days, I'm going to ask you to teach me a few tricks, because your show sounds better than mine by a long shot. And I keep, what I keep getting complaints is it's too long. It's too long. When I'm talking to someone, I want to talk to them. And if they're interesting and fun, I think people will listen or watch sometimes. But I really appreciate your being my first guest, and I appreciate your coming on to celebrate the fact that I survived this year. So
yeah. We've all survived it, thank God.
Yeah, in so many ways. But thanks, and we can now both wave bye-bye to my audience. See you guys next time, and hopefully you will subscribe to the show on YouTube or your favorite podcast channel.
Yes, do
Jody's
that.
gonna tell you have to do it, right, Jody?
Do it, or we're never coming over.
That's right. No,
Something like that. That was weird.
That might work for you. That's not going to work for me. And if you need to get hold of the show and you would like to say something, it's according to Yoni as one word at gmail.com. And oh, by the way, I got my first hate email.
Yay! Congratulations!
I was told I'm not real until that happens.
Isn't it fun?
I had to get used to it because I wasn't. But after a while, it was like I reread it and was going, wow, that person really hates me for doing a show with somebody they enjoyed. They liked her. They didn't like me. But hey, I feel real now. I'm a real boy. So Jody, thank you. And we wave bye-bye, audience.
Bye.
I'll see you next time. Jody will see you next time, or next Tuesday on the Stephanie Miller Show. How's that?
Yeah, see you next Tuesday. That's me.
Yep. Every Tuesday. Bye-bye, everybody.